Lila, and Teeps, and Flora, and me. Rocket.
Boost! Fire!
This has happened before.
Advisor.
Welcome to my last spring special. Chlorokinetics are a unique species, as they have abilities to wield all sorts of plant life. From the basic seeds to the roots, to making leaves slice, to make other agriculture grow, or even be plants themselves. They are definitely nature's favorite elemental, providing life, oxygen, and nourishment, and even sometimes bringing about unrivaling destruction. They can be just as versatile as their predecessor and a whole lot more, and spring is the perfect time of year for them. And they can also go hand in hand with photokinesis too, to give them empowerment or use it as a deadly weapon. Flower power and lethal green thumbs are their specialty, and green's my favorite color, and the successor of the previous two elements. Yellow and blue make green, after all. We've talked about my 10 Electrokinetics, we've talked about my 10 Hydrokinetics, and with these two combined, it's now time for my top 10 Chlorokinetics. Starting off the list is one of the simplest variants of a Chlorokinetic, Cractus from Wario Land 4. This basic guardian of the Emerald Passage is the second boss of the game, and while it does portray more as a Venus flytrap than an actual cactus, it's certainly better than the frightful Cacturn and Carnivine. Anyway, Cractus is an underrated boss for such an underappreciated game. Wario must bash on its flower pot in order to awaken it from its slumber, but throughout the fight it drools for some reason. If Wario should touch it, he'll be helpless as zombie Wario. It almost functions like a phantom, always gliding around the stage with its eerie trail beneath it, and also making many leaps and dashes. To damage it, Wario must ground pound its head, while the pointy plant makes its charges across the ground. As far as chlorokinesis goes, it hones its prickly paws onto Wario, unless he should be behind it. And the boss itself is large, covering itself in several of its spiky exterior. Be mindful of Cractus's charges, boxing burrs, and zombifying drool, especially defeating it within the time allotted, and shortens with each difficulty. Cractus doesn't contribute much of its plant manipulation, though it is a nice starting point for the game and for this list. Before I move on to the 9th Chloro contender, does anyone remember the gaming website Pogo.com? Before it changed drastically in 2012 and didn't restore itself after Adobe Flash Player became unusable? Well, I do, and I will always miss that fun site I got into from 2005 to 2012. It was a series of online games and a lot of colorful characters. and one of them is which I believe should be its own mascot, Spike the Cactus. What's his deal? Well, he's a basic anthro-cactus who primarily functions as a colorful companion in the games he stars in, whether it be Pop-It, Pop-Fu, Pop-It Bingo, and even in Pogo Island. Chlorokinesis does count plant manipulation, and rather controlling a group of them, I think having just one can do as well. While Spike is often confined in his own flower pot, he does find ways to get around. He even can be showcased as a karate mascot. The way I see it is that he uses either his sharp exterior or shooting out his pricks to pop balloons, rather than just the usual pins in boardwalk dart games, or just using the cursor. Spike is cute, cheerful, lovable, and much like his other lively friends, he represents all ages. I miss playing the entertaining Pogo games, and while I wasn't really into Pop-It or its successors, Spike is without doubt one of my most iconic, basic, and unalienating contenders for this list. If there's any plant enemy that stands out in the Final Fantasy juggernaut, it's the Ochu. These Chlorokinetics are beastly, and they're often considered to be the basis of other tree or plant enemies. They possess either 2 or 4 limbs that are as long as a football field they use as whips, along with rose petals suited for their lethal attacks. They often use status ailments that inflict poison and sleep to the team, and are usually at the extent as those infamous Marlboros. So it's always best to have any antidotes, golden needles, and remedies handy while encountering them. They aren't necessarily random, as they function as major bosses in the series. As with many Chlorokinetics, they're weak against fire, yet still they require a lot of skill, dedication, and patience to kill. I hadn't encountered them very often, other than in 9 and 10, hence their low rating. But regarding their boss status, how potent their physical and elemental prowesses are, their immensity, and their plant-like traits accompany their ailments, the Ochus are still relevant to be on here. Next up is another basic example of chlorokinesis, the mother plant from Metroid Fusion. Yeah, there's also the spore spawn from Super Metroid, but I just found this to be more intriguing. This colossal crop was manifested by the X-parasites, and it's capable on rapid major overgrowth. With the assimilating life forms, Mother Plant was developed and thus spread its roots throughout Sector 2, the tropical sector, in the Biologic Space Lab. Its vegetation grew so intense that it caused the lab to lose all power. Samus investigates the cause and spots many troublesome roots in conjunction with lethal cunters. They appear to choke the main deck and the sector's reactors, and once she drives off the SAX, the mother plant's indeed the culprit. The boss itself is almost like a copy-paste of the plant in ActRaiser, protruding its roots and shooting out annoying projectiles in a swamp-like setting, with its center as its weak point. While it's obvious, it still doesn't let you shoot it easily. Its first phase requires to break the encased core, and to also avoid the buds it sheds, while also evading any knockbacks into the detrimental water or the Samus Eater flowers, which drain your energy rather quickly like leeches. By shooting the vines preferably with ice missiles, it eventually opens and lets loose its fury by shooting out 3 lasers. Avoiding them is a must, but it seems to go in a sort of rhythmic pattern. The wide beam is crucial.
Sing it. We will rock you.
Once the core's destroyed, the X core would be unveiled, and it'd give you a beam upgrade. Thankfully, it gives you more room to roam as you destroy the thing, and it gives you the same weapon it had, the plasma beam, which penetrates through enemies and walls much as its own roots. Auxiliary power is restored once you kill it, and the spore spawns a good example as a chlorokinetic. Utilizing its massive overgrowth and vegetation to cripple Samus in the space labs, and the space lab's functionality, while also providing other life forms inhabiting the infested tropical sector. The concept is basic, but still a treacherous green thumb nonetheless. The suicide trees are a very hard contender qualified for this list. Much like another entry later on, these are the scary anthro trees that inhabit the second portion of the 6th ring of hell, violence. Only this section consists of trees sprouting from the dead soil and shaping from the sins on those who had committed suicide, which is incredibly unfair since this was established before depression and other mental disorders had been established. Each of these trees are petrified souls of the damned, incapable of moving and bound to their gnarled selves for eternity. And each one's designed to represent how they took their own lives, such as wrapping a vine around its neck, or perhaps a gun made of bark pointed at them. In addition, they're vulnerable to the harpies aloft, which mercilessly peck and injure these unfortunate souls, always feeling pain and agony as they did in life. Once their limbs are cut, they bleed and eventually regenerate, repeating the eternal cycle. I can't help but sympathize with them. Aside from sprouting trees encasing damned souls, they always bear fruit that give live wanderers like Dante the temptation to eat them after such a long tumultuous journey. Once consumed, they're mesmerized in taking their own lives, joining the endless petrified population. It's kind of like those fruits in Pac-Man 2, in which he becomes depressed and inattentive as he plunges into certain death. This is absolutely terrifying fate, especially those who suffer from depression, bipolarity, or other mental disorders. Unless a holy cross is handy, there is no escape to this inanimate fate of eternal, excruciating torment. Axel the Red, aka Spike Rose Red, is especially an essential chlorokinetic. It's one of the most unique and epic mavericks ever created in the Mega Man X series. Just like with Web Spider and X4, its environment, design, and battle is truly amazing. It's required to destroy him as it kept away the orbitable engine needed for the space shuttle to counter the Eurasia colony. Interestingly enough, it was actually a mutation from a Ukrainian jungle. I know, ironic. Possessing it to have awesome traits related to plants, including its distinctive red rosebuds, its green armor, and the long thorny vine it possesses. Like many grass wielders, its attacks are greatly influenced by them. Most notably the spike balls it projects, similar to those infuriating burrs that tend to attach to your clothes. It also has incredible agility, leaping around the stage like another known chlorokinetic, Sting Chameleon. It too uses its spiked viney whip, causing massive damage to X and Zero, while also entangling them if they get too close and drain their vitality rapidly, another common method. But, contrary to many, it can conjure an illusionary invincible clone of itself, mimicking its own attacks and providing as a decent distraction to its enemies. And it uses Rose Cutter, utilizing rose petals as they ascend then gradually descend on its turf, doing some damage as an environmental hazard. Rose Red was definitely one of my favorite Mavericks from X5 and the X series as a whole. I really like its concept, chlorokinesis, design, its lush and engaging stage, and it's a nice tribute to the lead singer of Guns N' Roses, Axl Rose. Just like with several others dedicated to the rock band itself. Every rose does have its thorns, and Axl the Red primarily functions with that phrase, and several classic rock band Easter eggs in mind.
Oh, you bite, you die!
The Chlorokinetics list can't be complete without mentioning the distinctive plant enemy from the Mario series, the Piranha Plants. Ever since their debut in Super Mario Bros., they can be just as common as the Boos, Koopa Troopas, and Goombas in Bowser's army. They come in different variants and colors, and although they'd started poking and biting out of pipes, they'd evolved to live either by themselves or in flowery fields, amongst other places. And the most common variant for me will always be the usual red and white plants. They mostly bite and leap out of their turfs when provoked, but over time breathe out fire, poison, and ice projectiles. They can actually grow legs and dash around planets, or be hurtful brawlers, and even drive their own carts. Heck, some can actually speak and sing. They can thrive in every environment imaginable, and they're more than just growing vines and traversing by their roots. The piranha plants are thankfully the opposite of those inactive suicidal trees. They're versatile, going beyond simple chlorokinesis, but they can be rather weak. Obviously, they can't be damaged from wherever their moles show, but there can easily be other methods, such as capes, fire flowers, ground pound, spin attacks, or other complex moves. Some having more health than others, like bosses in the Galaxy or Yoshi game. Piranha plants may be competent, but most of them are simple, weak, predictable, and don't require a lot of plant and grass manipulation. But at least they're adaptable and thrive differently than any motionless tree.
I didn't die! I didn't bite! Why do I die? I didn't bite!
It's no surprise that the living trees from Mortal Kombat made it in third. It's no question they're iconic and vicious since their debut in Mortal Kombat 2. As stated in my forest levels, the living forest was one of my favorite places, especially in Outworld. And the living trees are the centerpieces, inactive trees that were fed by imprisoned souls by the evil sorcerer Shang Tsung. Each one of the trees is capable on chlorokinesis other than their signature roars. They can use their own limbs and roots to entrap their prey, munching on their hapless vessels and consuming their souls for nourishment. And perhaps even develop more trees, much like how Trevenant spread. It feels as though the ghost grass type took some inspiration from them. They're of course scary and territorial, and they even started the rumor in their debut that opponents can be fed into their beastly mouths. Never happened there till around Shaolin monks, and this was definitely a surprise to many. But watch out as you get too close to them, as you'd have your own unfortunate soul consumed. That's how they gain life rather than the usual sunlight. Although, the living trees can't always be vicious. As in one of the comics during Katana's and Melina's flashback, they're known as the Laughing Trees, happy and peaceful versions of themselves. I wish they were highlighted more often. They're home to many secrets, as it's commonplace for secret fighters making an ambush such as Smoke and Jade. The infesting living trees were just too irresistible because of their prowess, their interesting lore and monstrosity, and it's always best to use extreme caution. They dominate the opaque woods and swamps, so it's best to tread carefully, rather than be a plant predator's delicacy.
Kung Lao wins. Fatality. I'm Groot.
Groot is no doubt one of my most favorite Chlorokinetics in video games, but perhaps one of the greatest in history. He may as well be considered as my second favorite not just on this list, but also second best Guardian, as he's often accompanied with his most admirable guardian, Rocket. It is said that he's the last of his species of tree monster known as Flora Colossi from Planet X, the capital of the Branch Worlds and created by the Gardener. Despite his rough, rigid exterior, he's been proven to have a heart of gold, being a Gentile to many species, including humans and the maintenance mammals, rather than mingle with his fellow saplings. Through his teachings by his parents and the Arbor Masters, he's honed his skills as a fully fledged chlorokinetic. He can produce and absorb photosynthesis to heal himself and revive others, even making places alight. He can elongate his arms as extending branches to forge bridges, or as weapons for entangling, protruding through, and whipping his enemies. He can function as a grappling hook, accessing unreachable places or grabbing foes. He can manipulate himself and other plants, even growing flowers, uprooting, and burrs for illumination. He has excellent durability and strength that could surpass a tough old oak tree, and can regenerate his limbs in little to no time at all. There are some downsides though, just as he repeats the same 3 words and only Rocket could understand him. or in the Telltale series has weakness in amniospores. Or even when he's a baby or teen sapling, it takes almost an eternity to learn something. Once he matures into a wise, valiant beast, he becomes unfathomable, even sacrificial to save only his friends. Ever since he joined the Guardians and escaped the kill, he is always considered to be the heart of the team, always willing to resolve conflicts and tension, or simply just being a badass. I had always admired Groot, ever since after I saw the first movie, then encountered the Telltale series and the Squeenix game. He's always willing to help others in need regardless of what it costs him, and getting along with those who are different. Groot is the true humanitarian despite being non-human. He's versatile, utilizing every chlorokinetic and some photokinetic skills. He has a heart and soul of gold despite his rough edges, and just a fun character all around despite his setbacks. He inspired me to nickname Makari's Ivysaur as Groot, since he's the only one who hasn't been cloned, even including him and the Guardians in my F-Zero chronology. And I've always used to fantasize him living in Planet Tortoise 3, specifically Green Plant. And he's just one of those characters that brings peace, meekness, and a green thumb to everyone to make the world and galaxy a better place.
We are Groot.
Alright, we've grown 9 outstanding Chlorokinetics, but before we get to number 1, let's have the honorable and dishonorable mentions room to grow. Well, what do you know? The Chikorita line from my favorite generation has made it as my all-time topmost Chlorokinetic. It's true Chikorita is a starter Pokemon in more than just the Johto games, and Grass has always been the primary type since Bulbasaur as the first ever pocket monster. So bam! You got 'em all. Not only that, but much like the pics in my previous projects, the evolutionary line has always maintained its mono grass element, never changing in any future titles. I'd love to keep it that way. While Cyndaquil was the first Gen 2 Pokemon I got attracted to, Chikorita was third, and they all just scream green! Ever since I was a teen, I always fantasized Chikorita as a she, to be the starter Pokemon of my trainer OCs, both Akari and Zelda II. And she even gained the nickname of Freya, based on the Norse goddess of love, beauty, fertility, and all the positivities, including life and using photosynthesis for healing. Chikorita is just a cheery, cute, petite Pokemon, much like Bulbasaur. Heck, I even wanted them to be a couple. And just like me, she's sensitive to heat and humidity, even though they tend to bask and absorb sunlight, making them talented photokinetics and empowering their plant manipulating skills. Whether it be her or her evolutions, chlorokinesis is their forte, from emitting sharp leaves to elongating vines from the grassy knolls on their necks, to use photokinesis, to producing leeching seeds, or introducing amazing moves such as Giga Drain or Synthesis, and even creating sweet or poisonous aromas like flowers. They can all go above and beyond than any existing chlorokinetic. Chikorita soon evolves into Bayleaf at level 16, and while I see Chikorita as the baby, Bayleaf's like the protective adolescent. Although, just like most mid-evolutions, I wasn't too fond of her concept. It was interesting she functions as a defensive wall, and that her spicy scent emanating from her neck make people in Pokemon energetic. It kind of reminds me on how adolescence tends to make people rowdy through hormones. It was nice for Ash to have one by the end of his Johto journeys, but it was a shame she wasn't a Meganium. Meganium was truly where it was at for me at level 36. One of the best things about her and Chikorita is the ability to calm tense situations, simply with their sweet aroma. I just love their meekness, and it's just something not very many Pokemon use other than dominance. Much as many people too. Meganium is the most similar to Groot in that regard, and her abilities. It's said that her breath tends to revive dead vegetation and brings nourishment. Meganium's like the chlorokinetic powerhouse in all step and mastering all the things chlorokinetics are capable of. And I always see her as a mate to Kanto's opposite Venusaur. Her affectionate and defensive personality, aside from outstanding design and techniques, are the main reason why the Chikorita line is hands down my all-time favorite grass starter and Chloromancer. And aside from the Bulbasaur and Trico lines, no one has ever topped them. I'm the Eekron Rider, and the Chikorita line will always be my favorite plant manipulator, bringer of spring and life, and is one of the reasons why I adore Gen 2 and Johto so damn much. If nature would be a Pokemon or at least her companion, the Chikorita line is the best example of a green thumb and the real deal. I'm sure the lot of you noticed I never included the Pikmin on this list. I wasn't really into it since the first game. And also...
Something much worse comes for you. For when you die, it will be without honor.